hackers on average are staying kind of quiet in your computer for 287 days on average. That's 3/4 of a year.
Wow.
That they're just observing. Imagine if a burglar got into your house and was just quiet and just sat there and watched you and saw, okay, they leave on this day. This is where they put their jewelry. This is where the good stuff is, so that when they get ready to pounce, and this is what the hackers are doing with the new breed of malware, is they're watching for all the good stuff, and they're watching how you email your banker and how you email your bigger customers and what's going on there. When they find and they line up all the most valuable assets, times in your business, ebbs and flows, they pounce. And it's only after they're done taking everything of value that they let you know, and they finally go and encrypt the computer.
We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. B1 Bank knows that entrepreneurs like you are always thinking one step ahead. So you need banking solutions that can keep up. It begins with lending. Does your business need working capital or financing for new equipment? How about a real estate or a construction loan? Good news, the B1 lending team is ready to learn your goals and help you find the best lending option available. Now let's talk about uncomplicating your daily cash flow. B1 offers a full array of treasury management services that let you collect funds faster, pay funds more efficiently, and access your information with powerful online tools. Most importantly, B1 understands the value of working with local nonprofits to build a stronger community. They believe in giving back through hands-on involvement with their B1 Community Outreach Program because it's simply the right thing to do. B1 Bank. Be uncomplicated. To learn more, visit b1bank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Hello, I'm Andrew McClendon, your host of the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. We're here today in the Propel Production Podcast Studio in Baton Rouge, and we welcome our guest, Mr. Henry Overton, President and co-founder of TurnKey Solutions.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. So why don't we start by having you tell us what TurnKey Solutions does today? What does your company look like today?
You bet. Today, we are a full-service outsourced IT company. We take care of everything that's possible with most of our clients, from day-to-day maintenance and help desk and helping people with their tasks, up to what's the evolving trend and kind of what's the newer thing for us is day-to-day, full-time, 24/7 watching the security. That's becoming more the thing that's most in demand. Takes a lot of skills that just weren't present in the marketplace a few years ago, and it's a very demanding position. So it's a lot of focus these days to really work on security for our clients.
So that's not a 9-to-5 gig when you're monitoring 24/7.
No, it's not. It's like 2:00 in the mornings when the interesting stuff happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you have partners.
Yes.
Right? So you started with one partner and then you added a second?
Yes.
So tell us who your partners are and what roles they play in the business.
Yeah. So the gentleman I founded the company with, Harold Robinson, he's our CEO, a CTO, I guess you would call it, Chief Technical Officer and CEO. And he's highly active in the company, just as much as I am, if not more so, is really passionate about the technology and the customer service, making sure that we stay not only just relevant, but we stay as a thought leader for our clients and help them make sure that they're using the latest and greatest that's really the best use for them. So he's constantly bringing out new toys and new technology and keeps us on our toes there. My other business partner is John Overton. He's my brother, and he's our CFO, HR, takes care of all the details. He's kind of our in-house details person. So it's incredibly helpful to have somebody like that, because I'm not a details kind of focusing on those kind of things person. So.
And so what do you focus on?
My focus is heavily on education and compliance and security for our clients. So there's a tremendous amount of security and doing things well that just comes from knowing how to do it well.
So it's a constant process of staying ahead of the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like in the e-commerce industry, it's this constant pursuit of efficiency, right? And as soon as they find a faster way to process things in these facilities, they'll rip out the old stuff and put in the new stuff. And similarly, you would be doing something of, as soon as you find or the industry finds a solution to a bad actor, the bad actor finds a workaround, and then there's another solution. So that's never going to stop.
No,
right?
it's not.
That's cool. So, all right, so let's talk about the early years. When did you get your first computer?
Oh, gracious. I think I was 13.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tell us what that experience was like.
It was really cool. We drove up to Baton Rouge to a computer store that no longer exists anymore. My dad and I, because he saw the writing on the wall, I was going to be a nerd. So he brought me up here, and it was really cool. We went and picked out a computer and brought it home. I think it was incredibly expensive for the time, and so I didn't really appreciate how big that was for him to do that. And we got it home, and I pulled out the manual. It was like Microsoft DOS 3.1 or something like that. I think within about 2 or 3 days, I broke it, so it wouldn't even boot, and it was bad, and I couldn't tell him. So I spent the next few months trying to fix it and figure it out. And when I did that, I was like, whew.
So I can remember back probably around that same time getting a computer, and what came up on the screen was these green letters, and it was DOS.
Right.
Well, I had no idea what that was, right? So you had to, in order to work a computer back in those days, you had to be able to talk to it. You had to be able to write some form of code, right?
A little bit, to some degree. I didn't know how to work the operating system, know how to get it to, sit on the hard drive right and boot up and do a little bit of the hardware as well. So
So what does a 13-year-old, once you get that computer back up and running, what were you using it for at that time?
Oh, well, back in the day, we had bulletin boards. That's how you communicated to other computer users. That was always fun. I would tie up the phone line, make it so that nobody else in the house could talk.
Right.
And you could actually do kind of a message board to people in other cities or other towns, and it was very primitive. But it was cool. You felt connected, and you could talk to other people, and they could trade games. Or I was 13. Let's be realistic. I played a lot of video games, but it was cool because you could download them for free off the bulletin boards and whatnot. And so you just learn how to connect them, and you learn how to make your computer talk to other computers, and accidentally in the process, you kind of learn some cool skill sets.
Yeah. So your family, your father was a physician. Your mother,
she was a homemaker, and all the 4,000 things that come with that. And I've since learned that that's a much harder job than anything I've ever done for a career.
For sure. So, but you grew up in a household that was very benevolent, and you tell stories in your book, which we'll get to, about a childhood in which y'all helped people. Tell us about that.
Well, it was a great upbringing. It was I had a great model to follow in my folks, and that they were always looking for somebody to help. I mean, it was kind of comical. We're the people that put cookies in the mailbox for the mailman. We never went to church without bringing somebody from the local nursing home with us, and that was fun. So we learned how to work wheelchairs and whatnot at an early age.
It seemed like it had an impact on you, and you had a vision early on, like really early on, of what you wanted to do with your life.
Yeah, probably so. I think, at that age, you don't really have all the picture. You don't have all the benefit that we get when we've spent a few years. But I knew I wanted to do something that helped. My folks were constantly helping other people, and it felt really good to get involved in that. It felt really meaningful and impactful, to be there when somebody needed you and to help them out with that.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because my theory is that as parents, if you just lead by example, your kids are more inclined to follow you in your path than just trying to teach them or tell them what to do. You should do this, or you should do that. But even still, what's the percentage that's really going to stick? But it sounds like they did a really good job of setting a path for you, that made you want to, replicate that.
I guess so. Hopefully it's working.
You tell the story about getting out of high school, and you had a clear vision of what you wanted to do in life?
Yeah, I actually went to a theology school. I went to a college that is affiliated with a large church at the time. Path was kind of set. I was excited about it. I was going to get a degree in theology and move on to be a preacher, and that was kind of the plan.
Yeah, and it didn't quite work out. Tell us what happened.
Well, the church that kind of managed the college, they had a pretty fundamental shift in theology and a kind of a meltdown about my sophomore year. What happened is everything kind of theologically that I believed in was thrown up in the air and questioned at the college, and it just didn't feel like a place where it was going to get me where I wanted to go. And specifically the specific church that I was thinking I was going to be allied with for the rest of my days, they weren't really aligned with what I had grown up thinking. So it was when you're 18, some things have a bigger impact on you than they do when you're older. And
sure.
At the time, that was a big kind of a tectonic shift.
Yeah, you had a clear vision of what you wanted to do and who you wanted to do it with, and nothing changed about you, but something dramatically changed about them and threw you for it. I mean, you really felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath you, right?
Yeah.
You bolted from there.
I had a conversation with my dad one night, and he said, well, look, why don't you just come back home, go to LSU, and we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
So I finished up my degree at LSU. It wasn't a bad call. And in the process, I got a degree in psychology, a degree with minors in computer science and education. Yeah. And all together with all of that, I think I had the ability to buy a cup of coffee.
Next steps. Now you need to get a job. You're out of college.
Yeah.
You're not a preacher, but you've got your degree.
Yeah.
And you put your education and your computer science to work, right?
Yeah. Found a really great position with a local school teaching computer science. So it was kind of a fun time because it was very tactical. I could just do the things that I loved. I could keep teaching and helping people, and I found a place to kind of be a servant to folks, and found a little bit of a mission field in the students, and it was neat, to be able to teach something that I knew something about and still help people. Yeah,
so it's rewarding in ways maybe that you were looking for on a different path, but you found your place in education at that moment, right? But the school, as I read, they just didn't have much of a computer budget, right? I mean, those were the early years.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you changed that.
Well, so it was a tiny little school from a computer science perspective. I think I was the first computer science teacher they'd had there in a few years. They were kind of dinosaurs. The computers that they had, it didn't really work. Couldn't really do much in the education on them, at least nothing that was current and relevant. So I went to the principal and I said, look, just give me a little bit of budget. How much money can you give me? And let me see how far I can stretch it. So they found a little bit of money in the funds, and I went and bought all the parts and gutted all the computers and brought them up to kind of current standards, built a little lab.
So you used the frames that were there and you just changed the guts?
Yeah. Kind of pulling back to high school days. So, yeah. I might have had to use a Dremel or two to make it all work, but they worked.
So you built like 15 computers from scratch?
Yeah.
And they worked, right?
Yeah, they worked great. They ran for years and years there at the school.
That's kind of where all this is starting, right? The whole TurnKey thing is really, the seeds are being planted at this point. And it turned into another gig somewhere else, right?
Yeah. And another school I was good friends with. At the time, I was teaching on the side because teaching high school at a small school doesn't pay really well. So I was teaching on the weekends and nights at another computer school, kind of for professionals that were, a night school for folks looking to help their careers. So I was teaching a little bit of classes there, and somebody there knew the administrators at another local school, a little bigger school that had some budget and just needed help. So I picked up a third job at the time, working other nights. I don't know that I slept much. You can do that when you're in your 20s,
Yeah.
And picked up another job there, working at this other high school here locally, kind of helping put together their network because they were growing it big and connecting all the computers, and it was kind of an exciting time in the computer world.
For their computer lab, right?
Yeah, and that's where they also had another gentleman there who was kind of leading that project. He knew more about it than I did, candidly, a whole lot more. And he was kind of leading that project, and he just needed some hands. And so they found me and brought me in, and we got to meet. His name was Harold Robinson, and we kind of became friends through that.
So y'all were working on this project together.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Walk us through there. How did it get to the point where this turned into a business?
Well, so it was a lot of late nights because he had a full-time job and a family, and I had another full-time job and a part-time job and this. And so we just met there and we're networking all the computers in the middle of the night. And whenever we both get over there, the school had written a grant and they had gotten a huge backup device. It was at the time, it was insanely expensive and had 15 or 20 tape drives in it, and
wow.
just for backing up all their data and their emails and whatnot. And they got the grant paid for, and they bought it from a local company, and the local company just kind of dropped it off one day. It came literally in a crate. That was the last we heard from those guys. So we're getting it out of the box and trying to plug it in one night and get it set up, and didn't work. So we go back the next few nights and just kind of keep working through it. And we call the company who sold it to us, and they don't even answer the phone. So we're just kind of frustrated, Being clever, Harold figured it out and got it working. We kind of forget, we've talked about this over the years, I kind of forget who said what part of the conversation, but roughly how it went was we were like, it'd be really nice if somebody who sold you something will also help you out with it after the fact, or at least answer the phone, or better yet, kind of help you from A to Z, making things work and teach you how it works and kind of make you feel comfortable with your new technology, and provide. And the other guy said, kind of like a turnkey solution, give everything they need. Boom. Yeah.
So how soon was it after that? I mean, so what it was is the industry was just really starting for personal computers and small businesses, right? But all the parts and the pieces weren't there. I mean, they may have been able to build the computer or whatever, but the service wasn't there to, actually get it, receive it, install it, do the network and everything. And there was an opportunity there. And that's what you and Harold realized at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was time to start a business. But so how did that work where you guys go, okay, there's a need there, but we've worked for a couple of schools here, right, and that's it. I mean, you didn't have any other customers.
No.
Right? So what was it that made you think it's a good time now for us to get in business?
Yeah. For me, I was 20 and something and single, and I had nothing better to do. So I said, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
Harold at the time, he had young kids and a real job, and it was something that he had to think over for a little bit, and he wasn't really as needy of something bigger to be excited about because he had a lot going on personally, just with a real job and kids. And so he thought about it for a little bit, and we ultimately said, okay, look, let's let Henry kind of work in the business a little bit more actively, and Harold will be there as an advisory and help when he can and on the weekends or whatnot, kind of like we're doing already. So we did that. We both came up with $500 of seed money. It was big for me. That's a lot of money back then. And I think I zeroed out my checking account. We formed a company after just I think it was like 3-4 months. His company, the company he worked for, had kind of a bad turn of events. They had to come to him and say, look, we've got to let you go. We can't afford you anymore. Wow. Which was just wild because he calls me up one day and said, guess what? We got another employee. So that was that.
That's awesome. Yeah. It worked out. So now it's 2 people,
right?
And no revenue at this point.
Well, we had a little bit. We had through the people that we had met at the first company and at the schools, and some people that I knew through church. Ironically, some of my students from when I was teaching high school, their families had businesses. So we started picking up 1 or 2 or 3 customers here and there, 100% through word of mouth. Yep. And that's how we grew for years and years. Just picking up one customer after the other through relationships, word of mouth.
Hannis T. Bourgeois provides accounting services, litigation support, as well as tax and assurance services to companies and individuals throughout the region. With offices in Baton Rouge, Denham Springs, New Orleans, and Hammond, Their team of professionals have a wide range of specialized expertise and give personalized attention to each client they work with. HTB serves all types of business structures, including corporations, private businesses, startups, individuals, and more. So call them today to learn how they can help you. Reach out to them by phone or learn more at their website, www.htbcpa.com. A little testimonial here. HTB has been my accounting firm for over 30 years and have guided my initial company from startup to expanding to numerous operating companies. HTB has provided guidance in helping us expand across the U.S., doing business in more than 30 states. Flat out, HTB has made all the difference in the world to our business. This podcast is sponsored by NAI Ladder & Blum, Louisiana's leading commercial real estate firm, offering expertise in every discipline, including office, industrial, retail, multifamily, and corporate services. Their agents guide you through the real estate process from start to finish, using a host of marketing, prospecting, and analytical technologies. As leading entrepreneurs, your valuable time and resources should align with the most trusted name in commercial real estate, NAI Ladder & Blum. Learn how they can work for you at www.ladderblum.com. TurnKey Solutions is a nationwide cybersecurity and IT systems expert, providing the services that growing businesses need to stay ahead of hackers, hurricanes, and IT nightmares. With 24/7 support teams and offices across Louisiana and Texas, they bring peace of mind to companies of all sizes. Their 5-star rated team provides lightning-fast IT support with the cybersecurity and business continuity solutions today's businesses demand. When you're looking for a technology partner to provide you with peace of mind, find out more by calling them at 225-224-6594 or chat with them online at www.tks.la/NXT. A common thread through your writings is the importance of relationships in your business and with your clients. We alluded to it earlier about this constant pursuit of change in the industry, staying ahead of the bad guys, right? As far as cybersecurity goes anyway. But the business owners are focused on their business,
right? And
they don't necessarily have the broad understanding of what's going on in the cybersecurity world. And so you have a job to protect your clients. But in order to do that, it means from time to time, they got to spend some money.
Yeah.
Talk about how you do that, and maybe talk about something that I think was defined early on in your business, which is your company priorities. You've kind of boiled it down to 2 priorities. Can you talk about that?
Our main focus is to help. We're going to look always to be of service to our clients and to be accountable and to be over the top clear about what needs to happen and what we're doing. I think that comes from kind of an underlying mission statement and vision of we're here to help, we're here to serve, and we can't do that if we're seeking our goals first and our priorities. It's never about a sale. We can make some great sales today, and if we don't take care of that relationship, that sale is gone, and it doesn't really help my future much.
There won't be repeat sales.
Right. Never will be. So it's if I can make your understanding as a business owner move forward a little bit, understand how to use your equipment, how to use your IT to further your business, to meet your goals, then I'm all of a sudden I'm of service and I'm useful here. If I'm here to just sell you a part, I'm no better than an ad online. The underlying kind of biggest mission and biggest goal that we have always with our customers, especially nowadays with the just incredible rampant increase in cybercrime, is that we're here to help you and make sure that your business prospers, and we can understand this threat, and we can understand the realities of what's going on in the world, and use that to benefit your business.
Right.
It's the same as people with businesses here in the Gulf South. They all have to be aware of this thing called a hurricane. If you understand the fact that there's a reality that a hurricane probably will come, I hate to be ugly about it, but if your business is aware of that and adequately and properly prepared for that, you have a massive advantage over the business, your competitor, that doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with cybercrime. If you're really prepared for it and you're able to navigate the threat, if you're able to respond quickly and really effectively to an attack, then you've got an advantage over your competitors who maybe can't.
Yeah. Well, you talk about trying to keep your clients safe and happy,
Yeah.
which those can kind of work against each other, because in order for them to be safe, they might have to spend some money, which might not make them happy. Right?
Yeah. Nobody wants to spend more. I get it. You know, we joke about that. Look, this is going to cost more than free. The important part about keeping you happy is that it's a big, long conversation where I got to say, look, what are your goals? And let me really understand what your business is about, what your pressures are, what your fears are, what's your management team look like, and what are their goals. And let's make sure that we can make technology work for that, and as best as possible be a little bit transparent, stay out of your way. The world we live in, it requires passwords, and it requires things like multi-factor authentication and firewalls and VPNs and just all the little things that have come online in the last 15, 20 years that are really more prevalent now, even at the small business arena. So nobody enjoys those. Nobody loves putting in their password 12 times a day. If I can help you understand why and help you maybe understand a way to do that more effectively and efficiently, then we're keeping you happy, hopefully. The rest of it, providing great customer service, being able to respond really fast with really good people, that's incredibly important. And that's, maybe to some degree some people see it a little bit as a commodity, but if we can keep both of those together, keeping you safe and keeping you happy, keeping your business team excited about using technology because they see a way to make it help their business or help their goals or help their personal, their line inside your business. If we can keep that moving forward and keep you safe, then we got something.
In your book, one thing that I got out of it is that you're able to help your clients more when you are able to bring in education, and you're able to educate them on some of the things that will help benefit their business. But you identify that education only really works when a client wants to be educated, right? And that happens after you've built a relationship.
Right.
That's when it happens most effectively. But in order to build a relationship, it has to start with trust.
Yeah.
And I've found that interesting in that you could have two people trying to do the same thing in business. And, there's something really underlying rationale behind your business approach is build trust, then build relationships, then continue and expand on the education to help make their business safer, which, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And what intrigued me about it, Henry, is it's what you love to do. From everything I've learned about you, from you loved your job when you were teaching, your role in your business, and it's what you do day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, you nailed it right there. I love the teaching part of it. It's a constant battle for people's attention, I think, in the world we live in, just to say, look, I know we're, even on a good day when things are going really well with a customer, if there's something I know that's really important that they may need to know in a quarter or a year or 2 years, or even right now, it's a battle to get people's attention. That's where the trust comes into play. And you also kind of alluded to it, that it's a little bit circular. I got to build trust to get time to educate, and I got to educate to build your business, and I got to build your business to build trust. So it's a long-term thing.
Yeah. So was there a point in your business where you either got a big job or a new client where you felt like, hey, I think we're going to make a go of this. I think this is going to stick. I think this might be what I'm going to do for the the long term.
Maybe that first customer, I think after that, we've just said, okay, well, this model kind of sort of works and it pays. We can do stuff that we're good at and we kind of enjoy, and we can go from there. I don't think there's ever been a time where we've sat down and said, okay, we've made it. Yeah. 24 years now, we've never really had that moment. We've always just said, okay, well, let's do the next job. You got to do the next thing well.
Yeah. And I've gotten that from several entrepreneurs, and I love that answer because it kind of defines entrepreneurship to me. It's this constant. You're constantly on that running track.
Because what you did 23 years ago is just so wildly not what you're doing today.
Yeah, exactly. So 10 years ago we had a server crash here, and it probably had like 20 years of data on it, cumulative. Our IT company at the time just was not there and was of no help at all. So Angela, who had experience with you at her previous job with TurnKey, called, and you guys came and in warp speed got us back up and running, and followed shortly thereafter maybe by a new server. And so you guys have been with us ever since then for 10 years, and you do everything for us, all our IT, server, firewalls, antivirus, updates, backup, monitor it all. We had that experience of what it looks like to not have service and backup, and what it's like to be completely monitored. That is night and day.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. But I can remember your guys coming in. This is back in the day. Now, you guys come in from time to time, but you do so much remote now.
Yeah.
What you can do with software, over the internet. But your guys used to come in, and I always remember looking at them going, isn't this interesting? The guy walks in, he doesn't have a tool bag. Yeah. He doesn't have a briefcase. He doesn't really even have a clipboard, and he just gets on the computer and, goes to town. I'm like, and here I am going, in my business, we have, warehouses and equipment and trucks and trailers and job sites spread out all over. I'm like, there's something very appealing about that to me. I kind of want that job, We don't see you guys as often in-house because a lot of that is done. So how is your ability to work online to solve clients' problems, how has that helped you to grow your business geographically?
Oh, it tremendously. We've got clients from New Jersey to Galveston now, and from time to time we support customers across the country, and we've had the occasional customer job overseas. So it's incredible. Around Hurricane Gustav, we had a customer that was probably about a block away from our office, and we just couldn't get to them, which was mind-numbing. So we were able to remote into their computer and take care of things, but we couldn't physically get there. And that's kind of been the story ever since. And so it's been a big boon for our ability to support people remotely, and we still go to those customers that are in Galveston and New Jersey and everywhere in between. We find it, the relationship piece is not as easy to maintain when you're remote. Yeah. So it's still important to go shake hands and go see what's going on.
And how do you do those sales? How do you market out of state?
Most of our out-of-state business has come from word of mouth. Our companies that will open up a branch office, or an executive will go off and start his own company and bring us with them. And we're starting to market a little bit online into states. We still are very sensitive to the fact that the relationship is important, to the point that if you don't have that, you won't keep the business. The in-person part of our business is incredibly important. There's occasionally a personality type out there who never really cares to see you in person, and that's okay too. We're very aware that a large percentage of people still find some value or a lot of value in the in-person. Where we are actively marketing to is still within driving distance of where we have offices, which, now we've got an office in Dallas, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge.
Oh, fantastic. And employee count?
We're at 16 employees now. Yeah. So there have been days in the past where we were 2 to 3 times that. get more efficient and do more with automation and programming, and you can, in my world, you can kind of save the customer some costs.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Do things smarter.
I love that. It seems like with every major economic event, it seems that it has an impact on security.
Yeah.
But I think of things like COVID, dramatic for so many businesses, and we talk about it a lot here. But it really had a dramatic impact in cybercrime, right? What was the connection there? What is the connection?
Well, so like the FBI noted that since COVID, cyber attacks have gone up like 300%. That's their statistics here in the United States.
Since COVID.
Yeah, which is crazy. And if you think about it, it's just follow the money. Cyber criminals are having to find other ways, and they've got a phenomenal opportunity here. Change is opportunity from an entrepreneur's perspective. And these guys, a lot of them are just entrepreneurs with no ethics. And what they're finding is that if everybody's getting the email saying here's your COVID payments, or here's where to get your free COVID tests or whatever. It's a simple in.
Okay, so there's, with all the money and the programs going out to support, then with that comes all the bad actors and the fraud.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
The other major opportunity that working from home and COVID created for the hackers was that every business, well, probably 99% of businesses out there, sent workers home or allowed people to work from home. And immediately day zero, when COVID really happened and clamped down and you couldn't travel and everybody had to wear masks, we're working from home. The companies said, okay, let's figure some way where you can work from home. Maybe we weren't set up for you to dial in before, but we're going to find some way for you to do it. Do you have internet and a laptop at the house? Cool. We'll find some way for you to work. And so we immediately destroyed the effectiveness of that firewall. All the things that you spent money on at the office to protect your employees and your computers was not at the house. At home, they had a $30 router that they bought from Walmart. Right. And they had the same laptop that their kids are playing games on and downloading God knows what on. That's what they're now connecting to your work resources from. We saw it, unfortunately, ourselves in several environments. Where customers would call us and say, look, we're doing this. They didn't ask. They just said, okay, we have to do this to exist. It was
survival.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We had to find some way to keep the lights on, and we're doing this. And we would find that an active criminal hacker was on the laptop that they were using from the house to connect. But we never looked at that because they never told us we're going to work from this computer. Right. And maybe the home user never put antivirus on that laptop. But now all of a sudden it's an enterprise computer. So those things became connected to the office network. People started typing in their passwords for work stuff. All of a sudden we have a breach.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that happened an insane amount.
So the thing about that is it was a tidal wave, right? I mean, it was a sea change of everyone having to do something to survive, to keep their employees busy, keep their business open. Yeah. And so when it comes to you guys, needing to engage to find out, okay, look what we did. How do we make it safe now? That's happening all over. So, I mean, there was nothing, spaced out about that.
No, it just happened. Yeah. One night it just happened.
So that must have been pretty dramatic.
It was. One of the bigger organizations that run studies on hacks and attacks, IBM puts out a study every year, and they run the study with a ton of other organizations, and they look at data across the world, and they found that if you're working from home, if you have your employees working from home, if you have what they call a work from home component to your workforce, the average cost of a breach is going to be a little over $1 million more than in a company that doesn't have a breach. And that's on average. So there's smaller breaches and there's bigger breaches. But I don't want to come up with an extra $1 million because I didn't protect those. So yeah, it happened. This is where we're at. and the whole world is kind of settling down to a little bit maybe of a okay, these kind of employees work good from home, these didn't, that kind of stance, and so we got to figure out how to take care of them.
You talk about some examples of breaches, some of them at big companies in your book, and I want to talk about your book when we get back from this next break, getting a word from our sponsor. Pivotal is pleased to sponsor the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. Pivotal is a commercial building contractor that performs new building construction, building maintenance, tenant improvements, renovations, and additions. Pivotal has been in business for over 25 years. The Pivotal team is simply the best. They have an impeccable safety record, and they crush schedules. A focus on quality and professional communication is at the root of their success. Pivotal also performs programs for clients who build in multiple markets with current projects in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. If you are looking for the perfect addition to your project team, a contractor who can deliver the results you need to succeed, Pivotal is the one. When it's critical, call Pivotal. They can be found online at pivotalperforms.com. This podcast is sponsored by Mayhall, Fondren Blaze, a Louisiana business litigation firm, offering sophisticated legal advice that is tailored to meet the needs of their individual clients, including a wide variety of litigation, complex business negotiations, corporate formations, closings, and title examination. As leading entrepreneurs, your valuable time and resources should align with the expertise of MFB, a Louisiana practice made for business. Learn how we can work with you at www.mfbfirm.com. Could you or your business benefit from a comprehensive financial plan? Our sponsor, Centura Advisors, is a locally owned firm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana that specializes in personal and business financial planning, tax planning, corporate retirement plans, and investment management. We provide an all-in-one wealth management service so busy business owners like you can take back your valuable time. Visit www.centura-advisors.com to learn more. Centura Advisors, it's time to plan your future. Henry, I want to talk about your book. So, tell us about that process where you said, all right, usually what happens, I think, is people have, one of these days I'm going to write a book. But then at some point you actually sit down to do it. What did that look like for you?
Oh, man. Well, we try to educate any which way possible.
Yeah.
And that's the fundamental only mission of this book, is to educate customers about what's going on. I had lunch with a customer one day, and he's telling me how he's a reader, and he reads, at this point he was telling me he reads 2 books a month, and which is really impressive. The light bulb went off. I said, okay, look, I've been writing blog posts and stuff on the website and articles and whatnot for years, but this guy is more inclined to sit down with a piece of paper and crack the binding and read from the left to right, old school. So let me think through this, and we just started thinking.
So everyone who I've spoken to who's written a book, which has been a number of folks now, they all agree on one thing. Yeah. It's a lot more work and it's a lot more involved than they ever imagined.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. It's insane. I lost count of how many drafts I had to read through and how many errors. And really there was a day where I told in-house team members who were helping me with it, look, we're done. This is the final draft. And I think we had 3 more drafts after that. It took over a year.
So you just released it.
Yes, December 1st.
December 1st. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to get an early copy.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate that.
You bet.
But I think the challenge with writing a book, and this is called Winning the Cyber War, how any business leader can lead their organization to thrive and grow in the face of increasing cybersecurity attacks, rapid changes, and growing competition. I think the challenge there was to make such a technical subject readable and relatable. I think you did that very successfully. So otherwise, I don't know that I could have got through it. I read a lot, not so much about IT stuff.
No, not many people do.
But there's a lot of things in there. And the other thing that made sense to me from what I had learned about you is, of course, it makes sense that Henry would write a book. This is an extension of his passion about education, right?
I enjoyed the first 15 drafts of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you see another book in your future?
Probably so, yeah. You know, when you finally get it in hand and you read through it and you're like, I could have done better.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it'll change. You
Yeah.
know, what's important and relevant today is not going to be what's important and relevant 2 years from now.
I have a friend of mine who has written a number of books. They're more spiritually based.
Yeah.
He's now gone through that same process that you just mentioned, and now he's going back to his first book, and he's like, "Oh, I can do that much better now."
Yeah.
So he's going to rewrite that book.
Yeah.
You know? So that's awesome. Let's talk about some of the things that you talk about in the book, and we as business owners should have an understanding about. We've heard more and more over the last few years about malware. And it's really, when you first hear about it, I can remember my initial thoughts were, okay, well, that's not something that would happen to my business. I mean, that must be something that happens to big businesses. Right. But tell us what malware is.
So malware is any software that you didn't want. It's a weed. Typically it is engineered to give the hacker either a backdoor or direct access to your data or some asset on your computer. Nowadays, what the effective malware kind of trajectories we're seeing do is give the hacker a very quiet backdoor into your computer where they can stay and observe for a long time. Andrew, one of the craziest things that we're learning nowadays is that hackers on average are staying kind of quiet in your computer for 287 days on average. That's 3/4 of a year.
Wow.
That they're just observing. Imagine if a burglar got into your house and was just quiet and just sat there and watched you and saw, okay, they leave on this day. This is where they put their jewelry. This is where the good stuff is. So that when they get ready to pounce, and this is what the hackers are doing with the new breed of malware, is they're watching for all the good stuff, and they're watching how you email your banker and how you email your bigger customers and what's going on there. When they find and they line up all the most valuable assets, times in your business, ebbs and flows, they pounce. And it's only after they're done taking everything of value that they let you know, and they finally go and encrypt the computer. So when it pops up and it says your computer's been encrypted, it's way too late by then.
Okay. And so what is the value to them to do that?
Oh, well, it's huge. There's infinite number of things that they can get from your computer. For example, if they can watch your email, they can learn kind of when you're transacting with your bankers and how you talk. If they can watch how you log on to your computer and how you access your online banking or your health records, they can get access to all that. If they can get into your computer and if you've been saving all your passwords in your browser, they can get all the passwords to everything that you own, everything that you log into, your banking, your Netflix, and everything in between. There's, if they get into an environment, let's say it's a work computer or you have access to a work computer because you're working from home on your kid's laptop, if they can get to a healthcare record environment or, banking or any place where there's you've got assets that are electronic, that's going to be some of the first thing they're going to take advantage of and either sell it on the dark web or personally use it.
So when I think of malware, I think of the ransom part. So they can extract value from all the things you just mentioned, but then they can turn back to the company and say, pay us this much and we'll unlock you.
Right, because we trust the criminals because they're good.
Yeah,
they're going to be honest, and that's the fun part of trying, or not fun, but it's the sad part about of this education process. Andrew is explaining to business owners, the people with the most to lose, that the criminals are learning how to exploit every possible inch of what they've just gained from the assets they can log into because they got your passwords, from the assets that you have on your computer. Then finally they're exploiting your integrity and your reputation. Oh, wow. If they can take your customer data, let's say it's not even that big of a, most sensitive information. If you have a few good contracts out there with a few good companies and those are kind of important to you, if those companies find out that you've been exploited, that you've been hacked and that your cybersecurity wasn't where it should have been, then they're going to maybe look at you a little bit more carefully. Maybe interview a few other vendors. And that's what the hackers know. So what they're doing now is they're actively threatening, like, I've got all your stuff. Do you pay up, and I'll not release it on the dark web, and I will not put it out there that I've hacked you.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
And so business owners are faced with this, kind
of triple ransom.
Yeah, that is craziness. So malware is one example of cybercrime, and there's so many others. I think of identity theft.
Yeah. Identity theft is terrible. One of the things that we're seeing with it that's really kind of popping up now that you wouldn't have thought of is title theft, which is just a tiny little way that they can use identity theft to exploit you. Is if a hacker can find enough personal information about you. They don't have to get your passwords. They don't have to get your credit card or your medical record. But if they can get enough personal information about you, they can con the local title offices to change who owns your property.
Oh my goodness.
And we see this happen more and more frequently, especially with CEOs and the kind of people who advanced a little bit in their career, where they go to sell their property and apparently it's not theirs anymore.
That's crazy. All right, jumping around from different subjects here, but that are in your book. But when you think about the cloud, explain to us what that is. It's a form of backing up your servers, or how does that work?
Well, so the cloud is somebody else's computer,
right?
In some respect, it's just the computer somewhere else, right? So, if the cloud takes just a million different forms. We have Amazon and Google and Microsoft and private data centers. We have a couple data centers across the country that we put our customer stuff in. And what you do there in those data centers, or where you put things, is there's 100 different ways you could do that. You could put your physical file server in somebody else's data center, and that's a way to put things to the cloud. You could use common online resources like Gmail or Netflix or online banking, and that's using somebody else's cloud. So thinking through that, the relevant piece for the business owner, Andrew, is where are my assets in the cloud? And you really have to understand that, like, the things that my business owns, uses, depends on where am I letting them live in the cloud, and how am I protecting them?
Yeah.
And who's ultimately accountable is important. If I'm putting all my stuff in your software and that's in the cloud, and your insurance will cover it if we get breached, that's great, but I'm still going to have to be impacted if that gets breached or if it goes down.
So, you mentioned hurricanes previously. And so if you look at how a small business might operate, they may have, some storage on their computer at their desk and backed up by the server. And then, maybe backed up on the cloud. How concerned do we need to be as business owners about the security of the cloud? I mean, or, where this remote facility where things are stored.
Very, very much so. Putting things in the cloud is neither good nor bad for security, in my humble opinion. It is just a different place to put your computer. What we're hoping for is that there's economies of scale with that partner. Like if you move your stuff to Amazon's cloud, maybe they have more ability to put more security on it than I would if it was in my office. How you use your passwords to that resource in Amazon can make it so that your data there can get breached just as easily as it could on your home office, and their accountability is zero because you let your password get breached. So it has real pros and cons. Economies of being able to prepare for hurricanes and disasters, and maybe not having to buy a new server every 5-6 years and big capital outlay. Those are real pros. I think the biggest, in my perspective, con of the cloud or downside is it implies a distancing of the accountability and the need to still secure it.
I see.
So, yeah.
You had also referenced business continuity, and when you bring the subject of hurricanes together with that, that's one of the clearest examples here in South Louisiana about your business being able to continue, because if your your building was wiped out. You personally went through a flood. You mentioned it in your book in 2016, but it didn't seem like technology or critical data was anything that you lost. But although you lost, seemingly everything else.
It was bad. Yeah. Fortunately, we had insurance. We had flood insurance, and that helps. Other big part is it was a massive asset. Was we just had some great people who just showed up to help. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of disaster that happened at that time. But when you do have your critical data, if something dramatic happens to your business, whether it's a hurricane or it's a fire or something, the thought about it having stored remotely is your data's there, and it's you can get back to business, and having that, providing that service for your clients and business continuity is critical. That's how I think about it.
It's huge. We had 4 customers that were their buildings were affected by the flood. Absolutely none of them lost a single bit of data. It was very cool. We had one customer who just sent their accounting department over to our conference room on I think it was Monday morning. They showed up. We set them up there, and they stayed there for 3 months. We had their servers backed up to the cloud. They had servers on site, but we'd kept them backed up to the cloud like you're talking about, and so we just we logged them into those servers on Monday morning, and they stayed there until they had sheetrock and air conditioning at their new office.
Wow,
so
that's service.
Yeah.
But we talked about a few things that you mentioned in your book, so much more in there. So let me ask you a final question. When you look down the road for TurnKey, when you look out 5-10 years, what's your vision for the company?
The future's bright. There's a whole lot more people out there that need to understand, and I think we're gaining traction with that, of just educating first and walking people through their journey on how they use IT and tech to grow their business. So we're here to be a facilitator and a blessing to those folks, and there's a lot of people out there that need that. So it's an exciting time in my industry.
Yeah, well, look, wish you continued success in all you do. Congrats on your book. Look forward to the next one, and whenever that may be. But also thank you for the great service that you've provided my companies over the years. It's reassuring to know that that's something that I don't really have to worry about. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for sponsoring our podcast. So
I'm honored.
We appreciate that. Thank you, Henry.
Andrew, thank you very much for the opportunity. We appreciate your business. We appreciate what you're doing here with your foundation, and you got some great company and great people to work with. So it's a pleasure when we get the call that we need to help out with something.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I love the consistency of Henry's passion for education throughout his life and his career. He started as a teacher teaching computer science, and he built a model based on education, realizing that once he's able to educate his clients, they'll understand what they need to do to protect themselves and grow their business. But that happens most effectively once they have built a relationship, and that relationship starts with trust. And Henry has identified that as a long play for his business. And of course, now he's written his book. So do check out Winning the Cyber War by Henry Overton. We appreciate Henry coming in. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you next time. We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. They can be found online at b1bank.com. The Next Entrepreneur is produced by Propel Productions. You can find more information at propelyourstory.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Next Entrepreneur Podcast and hit the bell for notifications. You can also follow us on social media. The links are in the description below.